When a woman walks away, she's not confused, she's not unsure, and she's not waiting for you to chase her. She's made a choice clear, deliberate, and rooted in what she believes is best for her in that moment. And the biggest mistake a man can make is ignoring the truth she's already communicated through her actions. A woman leaving is not an invitation for you to run behind her. It's the moment you're supposed to recognize your own value and hold on to your dignity. Because when someone walks away, they're telling you everything you need to know about how much space you hold in their heart. She may say she cares, she may say she's confused, she may say she needs time, but the action of walking away always speaks louder than any explanation she tries to give. A man who respects himself doesn't chase anyone who already decided to leave. You don't argue for your spot in someone's life. You don't negotiate your worth, and you don't try to perform your way back into her affection. The moment she steps out, you step back, not because you're angry, but because you accept reality. You understand that your time, your energy, and your peace are too valuable to invest in someone who chose distance over effort. She may come back later with reasons, stories, or regrets, but in the moment she walked away, she revealed her priorities. And the hardest truth to accept is often the most freeing once someone shows you where you stand. Believe them. A woman who walks away is acting from a decision she's been building up to for a while. People don't leave suddenly, they detach slowly, quietly over time. By the time she's physically gone, she's emotionally been gone much longer. And that is exactly why chasing her never works. Trying to repair something she already disconnected from. You're trying to hold together something she already let go of. Your effort doesn't make her stay. It only convinces her that she can come and go as she pleases. Chasing her gives her more power, more comfort, more control, while you lose your confidence, your presence, and your self respect. What a strong man does in that moment is simple: he lets her go. Not to play a game, not to get her attention, not to spark curiosity, but because he understands that begging for love is not love. Convincing someone to stay is not connection. A woman who truly valued you wouldn't make you feel like an option. And if she left because she believed something else was better for her. You honor her choice by not standing in the doorway. You honor yourself by not running after someone who didn't hesitate to walk out. And the truth is, the moment you stop chasing what left is the moment you open the door for what's meant for you. When a woman walks away, the first instinct most men feel is panic. That tightness in the chest, that sense of urgency, that voice inside saying, fix it, say something, do something, chase her before she forgets you. But that reaction comes from fear, not strength. And fear has never attracted anyone. So instead of chasing her, the real shift, the Corey Wayne mindset, is recognizing that her departure is not a command for you to pursue. It is information, it is clarity, it is truth delivered without sugarcoating. Because a woman who truly values you doesn't walk away lightly. She only walks when she already checked out emotionally long before the physical exit. And if she has checked out, what exactly are you chasing? A memory, an idea, a fantasy you created to avoid seeing her as she really is? This is the moment where masculine groundedness becomes essential. You don't respond to her leaving by sprinting after her. You respond by standing still, not frozen in fear, but rooted in self-respect. The man who knows his worth understands that anyone who chooses to leave makes room for someone better aligned, more appreciative, more reciprocal. When she walks away, it's like life placing a mirror in front of you and asking, do you trust yourself enough to let go? Not because you didn't care, not because you didn't give your best, but because you refuse to negotiate your dignity for temporary comfort. And here's the truth that most men overlook: chasing her actually pushes her further away. It confirms her belief that she holds all the power. It validates her decision because desperation kills attraction. The more you reach, the more she retreats. But when you choose stillness, when you choose silence, when you choose to redirect all your emotional energy back into yourself, that's when she feels the weight of her decision. Sometimes for the first time, she expected you to react, to beg, to plead, to fight for her. But when you don't, when you simply observe her exit and allow the door to close, you shift the dynamic completely. You move from emotional fragility to emotional strength, from fear to certainty, from attachment to acceptance. This isn't about being heartless, it's about honoring your path, because replacing her is not about revenge or spite. It's about replacing the version of yourself that once tolerated inconsistency, ambiguity, mixed signals, and emotional breadcrumbs. You're not running from her. You're rising into who you were supposed to be before you allowed attachment to cloud your judgment. Once you step into that elevated version of yourself, you stop worrying about who left. You start noticing who's willing to show up. And the world opens up in ways you couldn't see before because you were too busy clinging to someone who had already let go. A woman who walks away has given you the greatest gift: freedom. Freedom to grow. Freedom to upgrade. freedom to meet someone who chooses you with the same intensity you choose them. But that only happens when you don't chase what collapsed. You rebuild, you rise, not her, but the old life you outgrew. And that shift becomes the most powerful decision you ever make. When she walks away, most men stay stuck replaying the story in their mind, the good moments, the laughs, the promises, the connection that felt real. But the truth is, the past is seductive only because it's familiar, not because it's still aligned with who you are becoming. Key point three is about understanding that emotional attachment is not the same as emotional compatibility. Missing her doesn't mean she was meant for you. Missing her simply means you invested energy, time, and emotion, and your mind is resisting the void she left behind. But a void is not a punishment. A void is space being cleared so something bigger, more aligned, more emotionally available can enter your life. When you cling to someone who walked away, you trap yourself in a cycle where your power bleeds through the cracks of emotional dependency. You keep checking her socials, hoping for a sign. You replay old conversations looking for where things went wrong. You imagine her moving on and feel a spike of panic. That's not love. That's attachment to a version of yourself that didn't know better. But you know better now. Corey Wayne's teachings always circle back to this. You cannot attract what you truly deserve while holding on to what already expired. So letting go isn't a loss. It's a reset. It's a recalibration of your emotional energy. And that energy is the engine that drives your transformation. Replacing her isn't about finding another woman instantly. It's about replacing the mindset that allowed you to think she was the only option. It's about replacing the emotional habits that made you put her on a pedestal. It's about replacing the insecurities that convinced you that if she leaves, you lose everything. A man who grows doesn't replace a woman with another woman. He replaces his old patterns with discipline, self-worth, and emotional clarity. That's the real upgrade. And once you commit to that upgrade, the world responds differently. Women respond differently. Your life responds differently. You walk differently, speak differently, choose differently. And when you evolve, something powerful happens. The attachment fades, not because she wasn't important, but because you finally understand the truth. She was part of your story, not the end of it. You stop longing for her validation because you learn how to validate yourself. You stop wondering if she'll return because you realize the man you're becoming wouldn't want the version of her who walked away. You stop waiting for closure because you generate closure internally through understanding, growth, and self respect. And as that transformation unfolds, the fear of being alone is replaced by excitement for you might meet, what you might build, and how far you might rise once your heart stops clinging backward. Life rewards movement, not chasing, not hoping, not rewinding, movement forward toward purpose, toward self improvement, toward emotional strength. And once you start moving, you realize replacing her wasn't about losing her, it was about finding yourself again. When a woman walks away, men often fall into the trap of thinking they need closure from her. They wait for that one final conversation, that explanation, that apology, that validating moment where she finally admits she mishandled things. But closure isn't something another person gives you, it's something you create within yourself. And until a man understands that he stays stuck in emotional quicksand, waiting for answers that may never come, the truth is, the person who leaves almost never provides clean closure because they're already mentally moved on. They're no longer invested in helping you understand the why. They're invested in their own next chapter, not in completing yours. That's why seeking closure from someone who left only deepens the wound. It puts your healing in the hands of someone who already chose distance. Internal closure is the moment you stop asking why she left and start asking what this is teaching me. It's the moment you shift your energy from analyzing her behavior to understanding your own patterns. Because you don't grow by dissecting her decisions, you grow by reflecting on your contribution, your boundaries, your self respect, and your future choices. You start recognizing where you gave too much, tolerated too much, or ignored the red flags that were quietly signaling the end long before she walked away. That honesty stings at first, but it's the kind of sting that shapes you, sharpens you, and matures you into a man who won't repeat the same cycle again. And as you look inward, something powerful begins to shift. You recognize that closure isn't about fixing the past, it's about freeing the future. You aren't trying to hold on to someone who made a decision to walk away. You aren't trying to reopen a door that already closed. Instead, you're stepping into a space where your peace matters more than your pride. You start focusing on your goals, your health, your purpose, your personal mission. And the more aligned you become with yourself, the less emotional weight her departure carries. You start to feel lighter, clearer, more grounded. A man who creates internal closure becomes emotionally untouchable in the best way, not cold, not detached, but solid. He doesn't crumble when someone exits. He doesn't beg for explanations. He doesn't chase after someone who isn't choosing him. He understands that people come and go, but his identity, his mission, and his growth are permanent. He understands that the end of a relationship is not the end of his value, and because of that, he moves forward with confidence rather than desperation. The beauty of internal closure is that it eventually turns pain into clarity. It teaches you what kind of woman deserves you. It teaches you how to choose better next time. It teaches you how to love without losing yourself. And when that lesson is learned, the past stops pulling on you because your future finally becomes more exciting than your memories. When a woman walks away, most men immediately look outward. They look at her decisions, her actions, her sudden coldness, her shift in energy. But the real power move, the one that transforms you into a stronger, more centered, and more attractive man, is turning that spotlight inward. Key point five is all about rebuilding your identity after she leaves, not by filling the void with distractions, but by upgrading the man you bring into every future relationship. Because when someone walks out of your life, they don't just leave space behind, they leave an opportunity to evolve, to recalibrate, to redefine yourself without the emotional noise and expectations that once surrounded you. Once she's gone, you finally have the stillness to hear your own thoughts again. You can reconnect with the goals you put on pause, the dreams you delayed, the passions you slowly drifted away from while you were trying to make things work. Most men don't realize how much of themselves they lose trying to maintain a relationship with someone who already disconnected emotionally. You give more, you try harder, you bend your boundaries until you wake up one day and realize you're running on empty. Her departure forces you to confront that depletion. It forces you to acknowledge that you weren't living at your fullest. You were living at your lowest, trying to hold on to someone who wasn't holding on to you. Rebuilding your identity starts with discipline to focus on your goals instead of your pain, discipline to rebuild your habits, your routines, your fitness, your finances, your purpose. A man who is grounded in discipline becomes a man who's naturally confident, and a man who's confident becomes a man who no longer fears loss because he understands that he is the catch. You start to see yourself differently, you walk differently, you hold eye contact longer, you speak with more certainty, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you finally remembered who you are when you're not emotionally drained. And as you rebuild, you begin to see that losing her didn't break you, it freed you. Freed you from emotional noise, freed you from mental confusion, freed you from patterns that were holding you back. Her walking away was the push you needed to step into the next level of your life. You start learning new skills, meeting new people, sharpening your mindset, and expanding your world beyond the narrow emotional tunnel you were stuck in. The man you become after heartbreak is often the most powerful version of yourself because he rises not from comfort but from challenge. The more you grow, the more you realize something vital. You never replace a woman by chasing a new one. You replace her by becoming so aligned with your purpose, your confidence, and your future that the right woman naturally aligns herself with you. And the wrong ones, the ones who walk away, become nothing more than part of the story that built you. The moment you stop chasing the woman who walked away is the moment you finally create the space for someone far better to enter your life. But before that happens, something even more important takes place. You step into a version of yourself that no longer needs external validation to feel whole. Key point six is about understanding that when you choose to move forward, the universe responds by aligning you with people, opportunities, and relationships that match the man you're becoming, not the man you were when she left. Because healing isn't just about letting go of her, it's about rising into a life where you don't need to hold on. When you detach from someone who left, you stop handing out emotional power like it's free. You stop giving someone the ability to disrupt your peace, dictate your happiness, or control your self worth. Instead, you anchor your value internally, not externally. You become centered, steady, grounded. And when you reach that emotional foundation, something shifts in how you navigate love and relationships. You're no longer afraid of loss because you understand that who you are is not defined by who stays or who leaves. You're no longer desperate for attention because you've learned how to give yourself the attention you used to beg for. You're no longer chasing potential because you've grown into a man who attracts alignment, not chaos. As you move forward, you begin to realize that the version of you who wanted her back wasn't your strongest version. He was the version operating from fear, scarcity, and emotional attachment. But the version of you who chooses to replace her by elevating your life becomes a man who naturally draws healthier women, deeper connections, and more fulfilling opportunities. You stop repeating cycles. You stop entertaining half-hearted energy. You stop giving your heart to people who can't carry it. Your standards rise, your intuition sharpens, and your ability to see people clearly becomes stronger. You no longer fall for potential. You choose consistency. You no longer chase emotionally unavailable women. You recognize the signs early and walk away without hesitation. That's growth. That's evolution. And the irony is this: when you finally move on, that's usually when the woman who left begins to feel your absence, not because you're playing a game, but because you've genuinely outgrown the version of her you once wanted. She starts noticing the shift. She starts seeing that you're no longer available on demand. She starts feeling the emotional distance that used to hurt you but now empowers you. But this time you're no longer waiting for her to return. You're no longer hoping for her validation.
Yeah.
You're not even interested in reopening old doors because the man you become demands alignment, not confusion, not inconsistency, not excuses. Moving on isn't just the end of a relationship, it's the beginning of a new identity. It's the moment you decide that your story continues with or without her. And once you embrace that truth, you unlock a version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, and more capable of attracting the love you truly deserve.